The NOAA released a new report on climate change. They say, quote, last year was the Earth's warmest year on record, with global average temperatures over land and ocean surfaces measuring the highest since record-keeping began in 1880. The average land temperature around the globe was 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit higher than the 20th century average. The average sea surface temperature was 1.03 degrees Fahrenheit, above the 20th century average as well. Now, what I want to focus on in this conversation is not just that, and remember, these are the facts, so these are not open to debate. These are not, it doesn't matter what your opinion is on the facts. The facts are the facts, and that's it. But what I want to focus on more, because I think progressive commentators have done a shitty job focusing on this next part, is not just that climate change is real, which is what we always focus on, but what we need to talk about more is the effects of climate change, because that's the important part. You need to make it so that your average person understands why this is a big deal. If you make your average person believe that climate change is happening, that doesn't then, they don't make any further logical connections. It just goes, oh, okay, I guess it's real. But then they don't go, well, still, why should I care about it? Well, here's why you should care about it. This is from Business Insider. They say, because of climate change, there will be an extra cost of hundreds of billions of dollars to world governments every year. Hundreds of millions of people will be forced to move by the year 2050. Dangerous infectious disease can spread across the U.S. because climate change will spread waterborne illnesses and mosquito-carrying illnesses like dengue fever, malaria, and West Nile. They say Western wildfires can burn up to 8 times as much as they're burning now, so they can be 8 times bigger by the year 2100. Water scarcity will hit hundreds of millions of people. Hurricanes become more and more powerful, and they become more common. The New York flood zone will grow to 4 times its size. They say small island nations can be destroyed. Drought and famine will happen. There's going to be an increased food cost. There's going to be massive economic destabilization. The marine food chain, they say, can, quote, fall apart. They also say air pollution increases, and the list goes on and on. So that's the real story here. And I noticed that that's a mistake. Look, I'm guilty of the mistake just as much as anybody else is. But what you find is that when you have a conversation about scientists are always, they're very dry and very factual, and what they'll do is they'll focus on just the data and just insist that, well, yeah, climate change is happening. It's real. It's largely man-made. But then they sometimes don't connect the dots as to, and here are the effects of it, and here's why you should fucking panic. And again, progressive commentators, I think we're guilty of it as well. I've shown the charts hundreds of times that prove that, hey, look, it's real. Whether it's the hockey stick chart or whether it's the pie chart, which shows that about 99.8 or 99.9% of the peer-reviewed studies from the 1990s until today all say climate change is real and is largely man-made. I show the charts, but then I rarely go to the next step and say, okay, here's why you should panic. And I love it when conservatives say, yeah, the damn liberals are using scare tactics. Because it's scary! And too few liberals are using scare tactics. We should use scare tactics more because the correct response is to do scare tactics when said topic is scary. If somebody's running into your house with a gun and they're going to shoot you in the face, it's time to use scare tactics to get your ass out of the recliner. By the same token, when the world is going to go to shit by the year 2100, and we're sitting around and doing the same shit we've been doing all along that led to the problem, it's time to fucking panic. So, will this study change anything in the sense that governments will get their shit together more and will implement policies that make sense? I hope so, but I'm fairly pessimistic, and the reason why I'm pessimistic is that, especially in the U.S., but in other countries as well, you have this massive problem of corruption. Corruption is the reason why we haven't gotten a real effort to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels and to move towards 100% renewable energies, whether it's wind or solar or geothermal or all the other different options and all the other things that are being studied at the moment. We can and we should totally transfer over to that kind of an economy. In fact, it's necessary for the survival of humanity. But we're not doing it because ExxonMobil and Chevron and BP and fracking companies, they give the politicians a tremendous amount of money, and then the politicians give them subsidies. I love how we're at the point in history where not only should we not be giving oil subsidies, we should be actively subsidizing greatly, way more, all the alternative energies. I mean, we should punish the oil companies and the natural gas companies and the fossil fuel companies, and we should incentivize alternative energy. But we live in a country where we are still subsidizing the oil industry. It's exactly backwards and is contributing to the problem. And we wouldn't have a political situation in America where people can get away with this unless the politicians are just not responsive to you and I and not responsive to the science. All they're doing is responding to the dollars,